Screenshots of a supposed 2016 yacht guest list tied to Prince Andrew just went viral. And at the center of it all? Meghan Markle. Though the list is unverified and likely fake, the internet exploded with speculation. Code names, hidden signatures, and whispers of elite parties linked to scandal have fueled one of the biggest online firestorms Meghan's faced since leaving the royal family. But is this exposure based on fact or fiction gone too far? Meghan Markle exposed. The yacht guest list that sparked a firestorm. It started with a grainy image. No crest, no official seal. Just a blurry screenshot shared across anonymous accounts. But the headline was clear. Meghan Markle's name appeared on a 2016 yacht party guest list, allegedly linked to Prince Andrew. The internet lit up instantly. The list claimed to show guests from a luxury Mediterranean yacht gathering. Among the names was Meghan, just months before she publicly began dating Prince Harry. The document included oddities, pseudonyms like Captain X, mysterious initials, and alleged handwritten signatures. There was no verifiable date, no host signature, and no consistent formatting. Still, for many online, it was enough. Within hours, the image had gone viral. Some claimed it proved Meghan had ties to Prince Andrew's controversial circle. Others suggested it was part of a smear campaign, one meant to drag Meghan into the lingering shadows of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, long tied to Andrew. The claim had no legitimate source. No reputable media outlet confirmed it. Digital forensics experts quickly analyzed the image and declared it a fake, citing inconsistent fonts, incorrect formatting, and the absence of embedded metadata. But in the court of public opinion, evidence was no longer necessary. The suggestion alone had power. Because when you connect two volatile names, Meghan Markle and Prince Andrew, you don't need facts to stir chaos. One royal commentator noted, "It doesn't matter if it's real. It matters that people want to believe it." The weaponization of rumor is nothing new, especially in royal circles. But in this case, Meghan's name was used strategically. She's a global figure with a complex relationship to the monarchy. She's loved and criticized in equal measure, so inserting her name into a story involving royal scandal, money, and powerful men was designed to do maximum damage. More importantly, Meghan wasn't chosen at random. She was targeted because of who she became after 2016. At the time of the supposed party, she was a rising actress. By the end of that year, she was dating the Queen's grandson. Within 3 years, she had married into the royal family, stepped back from it, and become one of its most divisive figures. There is no official guest list, no security record, no photos, no witnesses. But even when journalists attempted to trace the origin of the image, no source could be found. It was as if the internet had willed it into existence. And yet, despite every red flag, the story traveled fast. Because it fit a narrative people were already primed to believe. Meghan was once an outsider who challenged the monarchy. Now, she was being recast not just as a disruptor, but potentially as someone who had been inside the darkest corners all along. "Fake or not, it hit its mark," one royal aide was quoted saying. "The goal wasn't truth. It was confusion." The fire had been lit. Meghan Markle's name was trending again, and for many watching, that alone was enough to spark doubt, even when the facts said otherwise. The Phantom Recording, Sarah Ferguson, Meghan, and the Fabricated Confession. Shortly after the viral guest list exploded online, another so-called leak began circulating, this time in the form of a supposed secret audio recording. The claim? Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, had been caught on tape allegedly revealing Meghan Markle's controversial past. But much like the yacht list, this tape never existed. And yet, it shaped public opinion all the same. The story began in royal gossip forums, where users claimed an anonymous source had obtained a confession-style audio clip of Ferguson allegedly discussing Meghan's early days within royal circles. Some claimed the Duchess mentioned yacht parties. Others said she referenced Meghan's relationship with powerful men prior to her royal engagement. The truth? No journalist ever heard it. No media outlet authenticated it. No recording was ever played or published. And yet, hundreds of thousands of people believed it. Why? Because, unlike the completely fabricated yacht list, this story had a sliver of truth. Meghan did know Sarah Ferguson. In fact, it was Ferguson who helped Meghan prepare to meet the Queen in 2016, including teaching her how to curtsy, a fact both Meghan and Harry confirmed in interviews. But a relationship that began in mentorship had, over the years, grown distant. And in that space, rumors grew. Online narratives twisted Ferguson's brief role in Meghan's royal initiation into something darker, as if the older Duchess held some secret knowledge about Meghan's past, and was finally ready to expose it. Royal insiders were quick to dismiss the rumors. "It's absurd," one close to the York family said. "There is no recording, and Sarah wouldn't have made one." Still, the damage was done. The power of deepfakes and AI-generated audio added fuel to the fire. "You don't even need a real voice anymore," one commentator noted. "All you need is a believable lie and a willing audience." "I think people want Sarah to turn on Meghan," a palace aide observed. "They want a rift because it confirms their belief that Meghan was always out of place." The most chilling part of the story is how real it felt, even though it was entirely fictional. It reveals a troubling truth about the modern media landscape. It's easier to believe a fake recording than accept that no scandal exists. In the end, no recording surfaced. No confession was heard. But in a digital age where imagination often masquerades as evidence, Meghan's name once again found itself at the center of a fabricated storm, one where the damage lingers long after the truth is known. Meghan and Sarah Ferguson, a real relationship twisted by rumor. Before the headlines, before the fallout, there was trust. When Meghan Markle first stepped into royal life, Sarah Ferguson was one of the few extended royals who opened the door. Their relationship wasn't deep, but it was real, and it mattered, until it didn't. In October 2016, just before Meghan and Harry's relationship became public, Prince Harry arranged for Meghan to meet Sarah at Royal Lodge, the residence she shared with Prince Andrew. It was a deliberate move. Harry believed Ferguson, who had once been an outsider herself, could help guide Meghan through the minefield of royal protocol. And she did. Ferguson taught Meghan how to curtsy. Meghan would later recount in an interview that her first meeting with the Queen was unexpectedly formal. She hadn't anticipated having to bow. It was Fergie who gave her the crash course in royal manners just minutes before. Fast forward to May 2018. Sarah Ferguson was present at Harry and Meghan's wedding. While she wasn't invited to the private evening reception, her attendance at the ceremony marked a moment of inclusion after years of being sidelined by the firm. Her relationship with Meghan seemed cordial, if not close. But just 5 months later, something changed. At Princess Eugenie's wedding in October 2018, Meghan and Harry shared the news of their pregnancy, privately, but still during the celebration. Some family members saw it as a joyful moment. Others, including Ferguson, reportedly saw it as ill-timed. Meghan's big announcement came on a day meant to celebrate someone else. Sarah's own daughter. That moment, according to insiders, created a subtle but permanent divide. From 2019 onward, Meghan and Sarah were rarely seen interacting. And by 2023, Ferguson would go on record claiming she didn't really know Meghan. It was a surprising statement, one that directly contradicted known facts. There was clearly some relationship there, a former palace aide stated. To say otherwise feels intentional. Royal watchers believe this was not forgetfulness, but strategy. Ferguson was distancing herself from Meghan as public opinion continued to sour. In a post-Epstein world, with Prince Andrew's scandals resurfacing, Sarah may have decided that aligning with Meghan, a woman frequently criticized by royal loyalists, was politically risky. The tragedy is that what began in support ended in silence. The rumors twisted what was once a shared moment of trust into a narrative of betrayal. And in that silence, fiction took root. The £15,000 mistake, how Ferguson's Epstein link came back to haunt her. Years before Meghan ever entered royal life, Sarah Ferguson made a decision that would come back to haunt her. In 2010, she publicly admitted to accepting £15,000 from Jeffrey Epstein to help clear personal debts. At the time, she called it a mistake. But in 2025, that mistake became a full-blown scandal. As new U.S. Department of Justice documents emerged tied to the Epstein investigation, Sarah's name reappeared, not as a major player, but as a known associate. The papers revealed emails from 2011, in which Ferguson referred to Epstein as a generous friend. For a woman still orbiting royal circles, this was catastrophic. Charities quietly severed ties. Advocacy groups she had supported for decades pulled back. One organization issued a blunt statement. "We cannot be associated with anyone linked to Epstein's network." Then came the royal consequences. In early 2025, King Charles stripped Prince Andrew of his final ceremonial titles, a move that had been long delayed but symbolically crushing. Though Ferguson was not officially a working royal, the palace's distancing from Andrew extended to her. Invitations stopped. Appearances vanished. Insiders say Ferguson was blindsided. She thought her connection was ancient history, one said. But in the public's mind, Epstein never goes away. No matter how small the amount, it's the association that counts, a royal biographer noted. £15,000 wasn't just money. It was a stain. This renewed scrutiny made Ferguson more vulnerable to rumors. People were now willing to believe anything about her, including the idea that she might be turning on Meghan to restore her own reputation. Though Ferguson issued no new public comment about Epstein in 2025, those closest to her said she was emotionally devastated. The connection wasn't fresh, but it had returned with force at the worst possible time. The Eugenie wedding clash that changed everything. If there was a turning point between Meghan Markle and Sarah Ferguson, it was Princess Eugenie's wedding in October 2018. What should have been a unifying family moment instead became a quiet fracture, one that still echoes today. Eugenie's wedding was important to Ferguson, both emotionally and symbolically. It was a public return for her, one of the few times she'd stood in the spotlight since her separation from Andrew. She'd worked hard behind the scenes to make the day perfect. But just hours before the reception, Meghan and Harry shared a deeply personal announcement with family. They were expecting their first child. While not made public until days later, the private announcement overshadowed the event for many family members. According to the book Finding Freedom, some felt the timing was inappropriate. Eugenie and Ferguson, insiders say, were hurt that the attention had shifted so quickly. Sarah had waited years for that moment, one guest shared, and it was taken away in an instant. Ferguson found herself caught between two sides. On one hand, she had once welcomed Meghan. On the other, her daughter had just been blindsided. And the palace doesn't forget moments like that. After the wedding, Meghan and Ferguson were rarely seen speaking. Though no feud was ever publicly declared, the shift was unmistakable. This was the moment the Cold War began, one built not on confrontation, but quiet distance. And it all started with a pregnancy, a wedding, and a mother's sense of being erased. I don't know Meghan. Ferguson's 2023 disavowal shocks. Royal Watchers. In April 2023, Sarah Ferguson gave an interview to The Telegraph that left royal observers stunned. Asked about her relationship with Meghan Markle, Ferguson replied bluntly, "I don't really know Meghan." It was a quiet sentence, but a loud betrayal. To those who had followed Meghan's early entry into royal life, the statement was a contradiction. In 2016, Meghan herself had recounted how Fergie taught her to curtsy just moments before meeting the Queen. In the Harry and Meghan documentary, the story was repeated with detail. Meghan was nervous, unsure of the correct protocol, and Ferguson, present at Royal Lodge, offered her guidance. So how could Ferguson suddenly not know her? "It felt like erasure," one royal correspondent said. "Not just distancing, almost like rewriting the script." Insiders believe the statement was not a lapse of memory, but a strategic move. By 2023, Prince Harry's memoir Spare had been released, and it had not been kind to Andrew, Ferguson's former husband. Harry had pointed out the double standards in royal treatment, how Andrew remained publicly protected despite scandals, while he and Meghan were cast out. Ferguson's response? Quiet retribution. By minimizing her ties to Meghan, she also downplayed the Sussexes' version of history. Some saw it as damage control, others as a deeply personal decision to protect her own standing within the crumbling royal hierarchy. What made the moment even more layered was the parallel nature of Meghan and Ferguson's post-royal lives. Both had experienced rejection from the firm. Both had turned to media and memoirs to tell their side. And both had once believed they could modernize their roles without destroying the institution. But now, they were on opposite paths. Ferguson had spent the years after Andrew's scandals trying to quietly rehabilitate her image. Through children's books, talk shows, and charity work. Meghan, in contrast, had become a media powerhouse, launching Archetypes, her Netflix docuseries, and a slew of partnerships designed to amplify her voice. Some insiders suggest Ferguson felt overshadowed and used the Telegraph interview as a way to quietly step out of Meghan's shadow and back into the royal light. It wasn't just about truth, a source noted. It was about loyalty and survival. Ferguson's public tone toward Meghan cooled permanently after that. She never clarified the comment, never corrected the record. And Meghan, true to form, never responded. But for royal watchers, the message was clear. The quiet alliance that once existed between these two women was now over. And the rewriting of royal memory had begun. The siege of Royal Lodge, eviction, diaries, and Ferguson's last stand. In the autumn of 2025, Royal Lodge, the sprawling Windsor residence, long shared by Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, became the epicenter of quiet royal warfare. After months of internal debate, King Charles issued a formal order. Andrew must vacate. It wasn't just about money or optics. The palace had grown tired of the lingering shadow cast by Andrew's connection to Epstein, and, by extension, Ferguson's. The couple, while technically divorced, had lived together for years in a kind of uneasy domestic alliance. But now, Charles wanted the property reclaimed. Sarah Ferguson was devastated. Royal Lodge wasn't just a home. It was her last symbolic tie to royal life. Losing it meant full separation from the firm, and more importantly, public confirmation that her role in the royal world was over. She fought quietly, behind the scenes, one insider said, but she knew the decision had already been made. Beatrice and Eugenie, now adults with their own families, offered support but made no public statement. Their silence, while understandable, deepened Ferguson's sense of isolation. She had always believed she was still part of the family. Now the message was clear. The door was closing. Faced with the loss, Ferguson turned to something powerful: her past. Insiders revealed that she began quietly removing boxes of personal diaries from Royal Lodge. Notebooks, letters, recordings, and unpublished manuscripts. Sources say she had been documenting her experiences for years, but now she was preparing to monetize them. She realized she was sitting on decades of royal insight, one publisher said, and in this climate, it's worth millions. The rumored memoir, still untitled, has become Ferguson's final bargaining chip. Not a tell-all in the traditional sense, but a collection of observations, interactions, and reflections, many involving Andrew, Charles, Diana, and yes, Meghan and Harry. Meanwhile, palace staff noted the symbolism of her departure: no farewell ceremony, no escort. She was allowed to take only her personal belongings. Royal Lodge had become a fortress under siege, and the queen of its last stand had lost. Whether Ferguson publishes the memoir or uses it for leverage remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: she's no longer playing defense. Christmas cards and desperation. Ferguson's emotional gamble. Just weeks after being asked to leave Royal Lodge, Sarah Ferguson did something no one expected. She sent personalized Christmas cards to members of the royal family, including King Charles and Queen Camilla. The cards, according to insiders, were unusually sentimental. One described them as pleading, another called them awkward. Inside, Ferguson reportedly included handwritten messages expressing regret for past events, gratitude for past kindnesses, and hopes for reconciliation. The timing, however, couldn't have been worse. The cards arrived just days after new Epstein-related documents were unsealed in the U.S., drawing renewed attention to Andrew's scandals. Palace sources say Charles found the cards tone-deaf given the circumstances. It felt like an attempt to crawl back in, just when the family wanted to distance themselves most, one palace staffer noted. Even worse, Beatrice and Eugenie, her closest allies, were placed in an impossible position. They had received invitations to the 2025 Royal Christmas at Sandringham and were reportedly told they could come, but without their mother. The emotional toll on Ferguson was immense. She believed Christmas would be her opportunity to reconnect, a friend shared. Instead, it confirmed her exile. But Ferguson had a backup plan. The diaries removed from Royal Lodge weren't just keepsakes. They were source material. And with publishers now making offers, Ferguson began meeting discreetly with literary agents. The Christmas rejection didn't just hurt. It galvanized her. This is her way of writing herself back into the story, one agent said. Ferguson's desperation may seem like a gamble, but for a woman with no title, no residence, and no place at the royal table, it might be her only hand left to play. The memoir Threat: What Ferguson Might Reveal, and how Meghan is involved. By late 2025, insider whispers confirmed it. Sarah Ferguson was preparing a memoir, and it wouldn't be sugar-coated. This time, she was ready to speak candidly about her royal years. And one name stood out: Meghan Markle. While never direct rivals, Meghan and Ferguson shared key moments. Ferguson welcomed Meghan in 2016, helped her with royal protocol, even taught her to curtsy. But in 2023, Ferguson publicly claimed she didn't know Meghan, stunning many. Now, those contradictions may return in print, not through scandal, but subtle framing that questions Meghan's authenticity. Publishing houses reportedly offered up to £10 million, drawn by Ferguson's proximity to major royal events. Her diaries allegedly cover everything from Andrew's Epstein ties to Harry and Meghan's exit. Insiders say King Charles faces a dilemma: silence Ferguson and risk backlash, or allow the memoir and brace for fallout. Meghan's team is said to be watching carefully. The threat isn't a blatant attack, but a carefully worded narrative shift that could reshape public memory. "It's not about revenge, it's survival," a source said. As 2026 nears, Ferguson's book looms large. And for Meghan, the risk lies not in what's fabricated, but in what's quietly, strategically revealed. Meghan versus Ferguson. Two paths after the palace. Two very different futures. By early 2026, the contrast couldn't be sharper. Meghan Markle has redefined herself in America: media mogul, podcast host, and mother. With a new Netflix docuseries in production and archetypes returning, she controls her narrative completely. Her influence spans continents, her image polished, powerful, and purposeful. Sarah Ferguson, meanwhile, remains anchored to the past. Her identity tied to Prince Andrew, Diana, and the monarchy, she hovers near royal relevance but never re-enters. Without fresh public purpose, she leans on decades-old diaries and an upcoming memoir, a final chance to be heard. Meghan walked away. Sarah was pushed away, said one royal observer. That difference defines everything. Their stories now collide again, not by friendship, but by fallout. The fake yacht guest list, though debunked, dragged Meghan back into royal headlines and rekindled uncomfortable comparisons. Ferguson's memoir may contain no scandal, but real moments framed the wrong way could shift public perception. Meghan's team watches closely. Because in today's world, truth is fragile, and timing is everything. Two women, two paths, one monarchy trying to outlast both. And in the end, it's not the fiction that threatens, but the long-buried facts still waiting to be told. The guest list may be fake, but the fallout is real. In a world where rumors spread faster than facts, Meghan once again finds herself fighting shadows. Whether truth or fabrication, this latest headline proves one thing: the royal spotlight isn't fading, and neither is the scrutiny.